wait one minute, right? Oh, now my phone says 5 o'clock. We should go by that clock.
That one's off always.
That was off always?
Yeah.
Is everyone good? Everyone else was 5 o'clock?
I got 5 o'clock.
All right. Okay, we'll call this meeting to order. Our DPS DEA interest-based bargaining meeting number 1. The first item on our agenda is to review and establish ground rules. So with that, we will open the floor for discussion.
Mrs. Ricks?
Mr. Fay.
I'm assuming that based upon what you gave out here with the 2017-2018 ground rules, matches somewhat similar to what we've had in the past.
Yes.
This was based off of last year's accepted ground rules, and you made appropriate changes, so I would say that we could go through and look at them and see where we were the same, where we're different.
Sure, absolutely. So, do you want to just go number by number?
We could do that.
Okay. We did, just so you know, there were 2 items that are not on this new one. One was decorum, because if I remembered correctly, the negotiators last year felt that that was something that we were going to naturally do and it didn't need to be a ground rule. Or am I misremembering that? So it's not on this new one at all, but it was on the ones from last year. It said, decorum, both teams shall conduct themselves in an orderly, courteous, and professional manner. Negotiator's cell phone shall be turned off or in silent mode during the duration of the meetings. So was I correct in remembering that?
That's, yeah,
okay.
that's perfectly fine, because I know that when sometimes, you know, I know we've had cell phones out because things have had to happen. You have kids, I have kid, and you know, sometimes they have to get hold. So sometimes they leave their keys where they don't belong. You know?
Yes, they do.
So as long as it's not being.
Okay, well, we can put it back in too. I was trying to remember some things that were discussed last year and preemptively take care of them, I guess. The other one we took out was caucus, because if we're following IDB, we don't caucus. So I'm not sure how you feel about that.
I would say the only thing if you would put in there is a number 12, because in the interest-based bargaining training, it did talk about there might be some issues where we can't do it. Or if it comes to the point where it just isn't working, we go back to the traditional way. So if that's the case, then caucus would be an acceptable part of the negotiations. But we do want to make sure that we understand we do want to maintain the interest-based bargaining to the extent that we can do it. Absolutely.
Okay. So you would like a 12th added that states that if the group comes to a consensus that we need to go back to traditional bargaining, that we can. And then would you like a caucus rule included in that statement?
Mrs. Ricks?
Yes,
if I
Dr.
could.
Sullivan.
If I'm remembering correctly, in previous ground rules, there was a ground rule that said either party can request to go to traditional bargaining at any time.
Yeah.
Something like that. It was not a process of consensus. It was at the discretion of either party.
Okay.
And if the parties return to traditional bargaining, it would seem one of the first things that's going to need to occur is that ground rules will have to be established.
Just redone, in essence.
If there's that transition.
Yeah. And we don't want that transition to occur by any means. But, you know, Laura, when she was here, was pretty straightforward that sometimes money
She's had that.
is not, you know, cannot be interest-based bargained.
Okay.
So, you know.
So something like either party can request to go to traditional bargaining. In the event that that occurs, new ground rules will be made, something like that? Or did it not even state that in the past?
Didn't say that in the past because even in collaborative, it was not truly collaborative.
Okay. So do you think it'd be necessary to say something like that in a statement?
I guess my only thought on it is, I think there's, even though we're saying, hey, we're gonna do the IBB, I think we have to leave it open for a time where whether either group needs to just say, hey, we just need to discuss this real quick.
Okay.
And come back and, I don't know if we have to call it a caucus, but it might be where, okay, what do you guys think? Because we can sit here and we can all look at each other, but we really collectively as a group, and as the discussion's going on, might not really, maybe we don't all agree. I mean, you two are across the table from each other, that might happen, where you two might just have to say, well, what do you think? And so I think we need to leave something in there where, hey, if we think we need to just take 2 minutes and go, we can. I don't know. Maybe
In the interest-based bargaining rules, ground rules that they have for the sample ground rules, they do have in there something for caucusing as well.
Okay.
Where's it at here real quick? I just read it a second ago. Number 22. Caucuses are to be kept at a minimum. If needed, the party will identify the time, and if need longer, notify the other party. At conclusion of the caucus, an overview will be given to the other party.
Okay.
So that is in the sample rules of the IBB, number 22.
Would you be comfortable with that language, Kim?
Yes.
Okay, so we can add back in a caucus. I like that language better, I think, than what we had.
And I like the fact that, when they come back, the last part of that says, at the conclusion, an overview will be given to the other party.
Okay.
The other one that deals kind of with what we were just talking about is number 33. The parties will transition out of IBB when and if one party no longer desires to use this process. This is not an unfair labor practice. And then 34 continues that and says all previously agreed to items remain agreed to.
Oh, okay. I think those are both really good ones to have.
I would agree with that.
So what numbers did you want to add in?
So
22,
22.
33, and 34.
Yeah, 22, 33, and 34. And I think 33 and 34 can be combined into one.
I would agree.
So those were the things that you took out, and everything else you kind of updated with IBB and...
Correct.
Perfect.
Okay, so now then if we want to, we can go through one by one and make changes as the group sees fit. Is there any questions, concerns, or issues with number 1 composition of IBB team?
Share or not? This is the old one. Well, I didn't, just so you could see the changes that we made, is all.
Do we want to add that, well, I guess, if we're interest-based bargaining, then Assistant Superintendent Reap shall serve as a resource person to be appropriate. We don't have to say to both parties,
Right.
which we have in the past.
And that was, I guess, our intention of going through and making a statement that we are committed to doing this, and so therefore we want to, in general, behave as one team.
Perfect. I'm okay with number 1.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Good.
All right, number 2.
We changed paragraph number 2. in discussions with Sarah, we were thinking that maybe we could go up to the middle school, have a big round table, sit around that. And so we didn't want to be wedded to the central administration office.
Or other locations, I don't know.
Right,
Unless a different venue is, it may be requested,
yeah.
because there has been, in the past where we've had a lot of spectators where they just don't fit in this room, where we have needed another room, and we requested it, and it was granted, so.
So we can put the word requested.
Requested. Well, just never having done this process before, we didn't know if this table or this setting would be most conducive or not, so.
Well, Mrs. Schwartz and I made it work for us when we first got here.
That's right, we
We
did.
started dismantling and rearranging.
Well, good for you. I wanted to be here a little earlier too, but my babysitter.
And I do like the 90 minutes. But if we are in a good discussion, if we are in a point where we think that we can get something done in the next 15, 20 minutes and we need to go on, if we have that ability to do so, which is said in here, we can do it.
Okay.
I have no problems with number 2.
All right. Yeah, number 3, I wasn't really sure what to do with that. Obviously, if we're doing IBB, we're going to be sharing information, and that's where things get sticky, is on finances, generally in the past. So, yeah, we left it in there for discussion.
I have had a couple comments on a couple things. And then this is kind of where a sticky point for us too, and it was last year as well.
Right.
And you know that. One of the things that has been requested of us is to, it kind of goes along lines with this, but it also goes on the long lines of the last one, the time frame for completion.
Okay.
Is that we've had a lot of members who have requested that the completion of the administration's contracts occur first. And in all fairness and openness, because that's what we want, here's the reason why. In their ground rules in the past, which have been the same forever, it does say no administrator salaries will decrease and the board is not operating with an established finite pool of funding for the administrative salaries. So they always come to us and say, here's what we've got, this is it. But then you go to them and say, the sky's the limit. I know it's not the case, to a degree, But that's,
But I understand that might be the perception. I will grant you that. So, okay.
so that was one of the things that we had that has been strongly urged of us, is we'd like to see us, and it comes to the act of the financial and to the completion. We understand, and you and I have talked already, that, and I know I just asked Mr. Reed before the meeting, what's it going to look like, when are we going to see numbers? I think we're all pretty realistic here.
Mm-hmm. I think that's
It's hard.
a tough request, because that kind of marries the two negotiations processes, and okay, so setting that aside for a minute, because in the past, I don't think it's been an issue, because the administrative negotiations always wrap up fairly quickly, no?
Well, fairly quickly, yes, but only one time before us.
Oh, really?
Yes. And that was just the last one.
That was when I was on, see?
You were good.
Okay, so I guess I wasn't aware of the history. We obviously cannot control what your membership has asked for. I would be really, I guess I would really be hesitant to say anything about that timeline in a ground rule. I understand what
Right.
you're saying, that if we're setting a time frame for completion, and you already know that you don't think your membership is going to ratify something before the administration is done, then that might invalidate the goal that we're setting for
Yeah,
ourselves.
absolutely. And that's why I wanted to read what the reason why they are saying what they say. I mean, it's,
So is there a perception that that will somehow change things?
I think the perception is that we've been told that this is all there is, and then the administration contracts come out where, we may have settled for, a 4%, just for instance, and then the administration comes out with a 7. And that's the type of feeling that they're going to get, that they have. That yes, I know it's 2 different playing fields. I really do understand that, and I wouldn't want their job.
Okay. So did you have a suggestion on how to handle that?
I don't know. I just, that's just a concern that they have. I don't know how we would write it in there.
Okay. Can
But-
we just set a goal, and then as it gets closer, if it looks like that's going to become an issue, we can deal with it at that time, or?
I'm okay with working around something. The only concern that we're gonna see is that if leaving a financial information aspect in there, and we know, we're not gonna know that number till, he said, at least March 9th, at the very earliest. And that would be a forecast number.
Mhm.
They were telling us May.
Well, that's the end of the session.
Right, I
By
mean, for the-
crossover, we're gonna know.
No, right, yeah.
Mr. Reef, do we issue contracts to both groups simultaneously?
We never have.
Are there different deadlines for the two?
In terms of century code, I don't think so.
Okay.
The only, I think in terms of century code, the administrators fall within some of the century codes that teachers do in terms of how many days they have to get it back.
Mhm.
When they switch that, superintendents are different. But, I can't remember the history of who settled first, to tell you the truth, but
Great.
but I'm not involved on the administrative side. I'm a resource person there, and quite frankly, I don't get called in much. And that's fine with me. And even more so this year.
I think, that's the whole point behind them wanting that, is that they don't want us to accept these ground rules and then to have these ground rules come out for them again. Saying, yeah, we have a limited amount of money, but no, we don't.
Right. I really do understand that. The problem is, it's a completely separate committee, completely different people. I don't feel that it would be very professional for Kim and I to dictate what Mr. Seeks and Mrs. Rude get to do on their negotiations committee. I really do understand the perspective that you've been given. I don't know what to do about it.
Yeah, I'll be honest, this was a few years ago, a former administrator made the comment that, well, just to say how he said it, you guys are stupid. We looked at him and go, all we do is wait till you're done. You guys are stupid for settling before we do. And I was kind of, wow. It surprised me, but.
So, I think it also is tough in a precedent way, because then what if we've got administrators saying, well, fine, we're not gonna settle until the teachers do? I mean, really?
This is gonna be interesting.
I mean, Jim said it. Part of it is, here's a finite set. This is all. And yet, it says right in there that they have an infinite, well, we know it's not infinite. We get that. We understand that. But, you know, so it kind of, I don't know, for lack of better words, doesn't really seem fair.
Mhm. I understand that that's what the ground rule says, which is an interesting ground rule, granted, and then I'm sure there's some interesting history behind it. But in both situations, I mean, the board looks at the financial situation and tries to figure out what we really can afford to do. And I think the percentages have been fairly equivalent over the years, if I'm right about that. Am I incorrect?
Perception has versus reality sometimes.
Right, right.
And in all honesty, there's a very large, I don't want to say a large majority, because it's not a majority, but it's a very vocal grouping of people who looked at the last administrator's salary, and I know we can't compare apples and oranges, and saw the lump sum plus the percentage, and then we were told, you know, we only have this much money, and I remember, you know, sitting there, well, you know, with you know, this is what we got, this is what, no, we're not, you know, we almost felt that that number was being forced on us, where the other side just got, well, here you go. And that's the vocal group is that's what they're saying. And how do we combat that? I don't know. You know, and then that's something we have to deal with when we go back.
Okay. So ground rule wise.
We settled on this one last time.
Mm-hmm.
So awareness of the issue isn't enough.
For some of us, yes. For some of us, no.
Right, okay.
Okay. So the financial information doesn't talk about a finite amount of money. It's just an overall awareness of where finances are, and I agree that this is the revenue that the school district has, right?
That's true. It doesn't say that's all there is to bargain with.
Right. Just that we can make sure that our finance facts line up and that we're using the same set of facts. And we're not going to be we probably don't get to talk about new money at all this year, so it might be easier than years past.
I guess in lieu of what we did last year and taking a look at this, and I'm going to ask the other ones to chime in as well. I don't have a problem, but I know I'm going to have to defend it.
Right.
And I guess maybe I foresee we may come to a tentative agreement. Okay, we come to an agreement, but it's not going to go until the other group settles. I can see that happening, or am I wrong?
I can see that.
I
I
would agree.
can, I can see that there, and the issue is it's not our average members that are saying it, but it's the vocal members.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you being frank and upfront about this issue that you're foreseeing. So would there be a change in language on the financial information piece that would be helpful, or do you feel that it's not necessary
Take a
in
look
this
at, I mean,
format?
if you read it, I mean, I'm not seeing this where it says this is all. You know, so I like how this is written.
I
You
do.
know, I like how this is written. It doesn't say there's a finite amount of money, but it does say that we will look at the financials, which are public information anyway.
Mhm. Mhm.
I think I'm okay with the wording for the financial part. The part that I think we're,
Number 11.
number 11 is probably gonna be the harder one because we're looking at, I mean, it doesn't say that we have a set amount, this is all there is. It says that we're gonna bring our facts together, we're gonna discuss them, and we're gonna have the same understanding of where we sit financially as a district
Mhm.
and what's available. But I do know that on number 11, coming up with a time frame, I mean, somehow we have to word it that there could possibly be that factor that we might have come to an agreement on a lot of things, but we are not going to be able to come back to you with, from our members, that we will settle until the administration has done so. That's where I see where we might have some from the vocal members of our group.
Well, it's a target date. It's not something that is, if we don't meet it, now we go to impasse or.
No,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it's just like a
Right.
Yeah,
target.
absolutely
It's
not.
just, it's just a goal, and so you think even having a goal would make people uptight, is that what you're?
I don't think it happened last year. This year.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, that was the only time
We were
that
close,
the
though.
administrators actually settled first. Every other time, it's always been after. And usually, it was when we fought the fight of getting the, whatever it happens to be, you know, the extra day or the incentives, whatever, you know, then they come in and say, yeah, teachers got it, we want it now. But I'm okay with number 3.
Okay,
I think so too.
I would
I'm
agree.
agreed.
I'm okay with number 3.
Yeah.
Number 3 is well written.
okay.
Number 3 is well written. We're gonna have the issue with number 11. But I brought it up with number 3 because it does deal with the finances.
Right,
Yeah.
okay. So we'll put it on hold for a second and go through the other ones. And
Yeah,
then-
let's go on down, yeah, absolutely.
And then we'll spend our last hour on number 11. Okay. Handouts, again, we weren't sure if we need it or not, since hopefully we're all gonna be sharing the same information, but it is nice to have information ahead of time if we're gonna be discussing it.
Putting at least 2 days prior it might be a little restrictive if we get down to the very end.
Okay.
You know, right away, where we might meet every week or a week and a half, it might not be a big deal. But if we get down to the crunch time where we want to get the contracts out and we want to get everything hammered out, we might not have that 2 days.
Should we just add a little when possible after the 2 days prior?
Mr. Fay, isn't that covered by the last 7 words?
Agrees to a different deadline.
Yeah,
Okay, so we're good.
perfect.
It's good.
All right, number 5.
Yes, no, maybe?
I'm perfectly fine with that.
Okay, I felt that it's worked really well.
It's being from somebody who, and I think I'm the only one here who actually was a part of the group that used to alternate. It puts us, you and I, and all of the negotiators into a situation where we can actually concentrate on what we're talking about and what we're doing, rather than keeping the flow,
Right.
keeping the notes so we can brief at the end. And so I like that concept of having Dr. Sullivan to do that, so we can concentrate on what we need to do.
Perfect. I really liked it too. I think he does a great job. So, are you willing to do that again, Dr. Sullivan?
Doesn't sound like I have Mrs. Choice. You are my boss.
Yeah, but I want you
No,
to feel
it's-
like you have a choice.
No, I'd be happy to do that.
Perfect.
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, number 6.
Let's move to 7. Come on.
All right, 7.
That's good. I think pretty much we just updated the language
Yeah.
from the one before.
Yeah.
I would say that I'm okay with that.
I think I am perfectly okay
As long
with
as we
that.
don't spend the first 7 meetings on
Ground
Ground
rules.
rules.
Okay, right. I think we're gonna wrap it up today. So
Yeah, this is
Yeah,
good.
I'm okay with that.
Okay,
Looks great.
number 8.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
I have no
Okay.
concerns.
Number 9, issues.
We changed topics.
Yeah, we changed topic to issues. Trying to use the IBB lingo here.
I'd rather use the word topics,
Would you?
because when I see the word issues, it takes me back to Coach Bijou and current issues and problems. You have an issue, do you have a problem? Is a problem
I was
an
gonna
issue?
say
And
issue
so
is passive
it makes me
negative.
always think of problems.
Yeah.
I don't know,
I
that's
agree.
just me. But,
I see issues as a negative word.
yeah, I do too.
Okay.
I don't
mean, if
really
we can
care.
come
We
up
can
with a
change it
different
to
word.
topics, that's fine, as long as we're all clear. If I'm trying to, go back through our training and
Mhm.
focus it
Mhm.
in,
Oh, yeah,
that
for sure.
topic means issue.
Yeah, I agree. Issues
Okay.
Just as a-
makes it sound like, it's more negative, I think.
Yeah, but if it's not broke, why are we fixing it? I don't know. It's fine. If topics makes everyone feel good, we will go with topics.
Okay.
Everyone's okay with the deadline and,
Yep.
okay. All right, number 10.
That's the exact same wording as we had from last time,
Yep.
except for IBB.
Yep. And then we'll take topics that are not agreed upon?
Yep.
Okay. And we're down to 11.
Mhm.
Yeah. I liked what we did have done in the last cycle, where we came to the tentative agreement, reviewed the tentative agreement at the next meeting, after they came out, so everybody had an opportunity to look at it and make sure it was what we wanted, came back and signed it.
Yeah, I think that worked really well too. And I remembered that there was some discomfort with the chief negotiator's phrase, so we just said one member
Yeah.
from the board and one member from the BB.
Yeah.
Okay, so 11.
obviously I understand Mr. Reeps wanting to get contracts out as soon as possible after we know numbers. You know, to secure the staff and to ensure that we get our staff back. Mr. Shobing, you were going to say something?
Well, it just says a time, and we did this last year, but a time frame will be set based on the number of topics and anticipated time needed to address them. Realistically, we're going to set a time frame regardless of how many topics we have. You know,
True.
to get those out, I mean, I understand the reason for the wording, but, I mean, we're basically going to say, all right, we need to be done by, that's what we did last year. I mean, there's a point in time, I don't think we thought we were going to get there, but we said, you know what, let's get it taken care of, and we did. And so, I think, you know,
So we could just take out, you're saying,
I mean, I don't think you have to take anything out, but,
well, but your point is well taken. If we're actually just going to set a target date regardless of how many topics we have,
Then aren't we really
let's
going
just
to
set
do
the
that?
target date, yeah.
I mean, and maybe it's something about we set a target date once all the important information is, I don't know, I mean, because that's what we're gonna do anyway, regardless. We're gonna get the information we have and say, we need to get this done, so, you know, things are taken care of before.
And would that
So
solve your
is it-
problem if we just asked Mr. Reed, when do we need to be done by to get contracts out? Then, I mean, I'm assuming that would be a similar deadline for the other group that your people are concerned about.
I would agree with that.
Mhm.
I mean, because we want to make sure that we get contracts back to you before we leave for summer. Because if somebody leaves on vacation and misses a date, you know, now with only having 14 instead of 30, that is a potential issue. Especially if we don't settle till after we get done with school, then you gotta mail them. And that's a whole nother issue.
And our mail service here. I get everybody's mail and they must be getting mine on our block.
I'm
so-
lucky if I get mail twice a week.
Oh. I can give you some. You don't have
So,
to have your name
but,
on
so
it.
I would be perfectly fine to backdate what we need to ratify and for you guys to do and to,
Okay.
you know, the 14 days.
The other part that I'm kind of leery about, it says, at the first or second meeting, following the establishment of ground rules. So we could,
Just do it right now?
well, we're not gonna know that for a while, correct?
We're not,
We may not know the financials for quite a while, and so, well, maybe
Mr. Reap, what is the typical deadline that you want contracts signed and back to?
Well, since Century Code changed it to 14 days that they have to give them back, I mean, we've been geared up so that HR and the accounting office can crank them out in 2 days if we need to, and ready to go as long as there aren't any real strange salary schedules that pop up at the end or anything like that. So I would think, you know, just to throw a date out, you know, May 1st, if that's, I mean, that gives us more time than we need, but it's a target date.
right. And then
It's not a, okay, the world ends if you guys aren't finished by then.
And if we have the numbers, that'll be key. But if you've heard not until May we're going to get final numbers,
Well, they keep saying they're only going 70 days. And they're gonna hold 10 days, according to Senator Wardner, for special sessions in summer
I think they're gonna meet.
and man, I'm surprised if they're gonna crank it out in 70, but they're still shooting for it. And so if that's the case, we'll have them, I mean, they'll be done in April. I don't
We've done
know
that
what
first
the
week of
calendar
April.
is, but, and so state funding, and if there's formula changes and tweaks, you know, they could change, but usually they don't decide, even though crossover, we kind of know where it's going. It's the 11th hour.
And the first, if we could get it done by or on the 1st, that does actually meet our date
Yeah.
for
For
our
ratification.
meeting. So,
Okay. So do we want to just say a target date to complete is May 1st and leave out all of the other preceding stuff?
Madam President,
Dr. Sullivan?
Mr. Fay, I'm not trying to be a complicator here, but keep in mind that the board has been informed in previous times that there is a window that the DEA has to allow before something can be voted on to settle the negotiated agreement. And if we put the date at May 1st, if my recollection is that puts the ratification somewhere around the 15th or somewhere in that ballpark.
yeah, well, if May 1st, we'd have our first meeting May 2nd, ratify it May 9th. And you guys would have your time probably, I'm gonna guess, the 11th or the 15th. Is that your regular meeting? That's the 8th regular
It
meeting.
would be the 8th.
The
Yeah.
8th would be our regular meeting,
So-
but we could have a special meeting if we need to get contracts out. So Dr. Sullivan, you're concerned that that's too little time?
Well, it gets it to the point where I'm sure that the assistant superintendent and his assistants can get the documents distributed before people leave for the summer, but it does potentially extend the window for when they have to be returned, just depending on how the time frame falls into possibly June, but it just depends.
So you're thinking we need to set the target date a little earlier?
I'm just putting out what I see to be something that I think the parties need to discuss.
Okay.
What
He's
happened
just a
with
resource person.
last year's? It
We
says
made
May
it.
6th.
We made
We made it.
we made it.
It was done.
We met half hour, 45 minutes longer on that last meeting to finish it. But we
Okay.
made it.
And then you got your contracts back?
Mm-hmm.
So do you want to do May 1st then?
We can put it at May 1st and, I mean, I think that's a date that's defensible for you, right?
Mm-hmm. I think it is. I mean, we want to do what's best for the district as well, obviously. I mean, we want to ensure that we bring back our quality teachers,
Right.
bottom line.
Okay.
So I just wrote down a target date for completion of negotiations to be discussed and set by the IBB team.
Okay.
And basically we have.
We just did it.
We basically have. I mean,
Okay. That's fine. We could put that in the ground rules and then as it gets closer, we may have to change the target in one direction or another. If it's looking like, oh, well shoot, May 1st doesn't actually give us enough time, can we wrap it up by April 28th or whatever it is.
and getting started when we are, Mrs. Ricks, if we can meet on a regular basis, solve the issues or the topics that we need to solve,
Mhm.
so that when it comes time to deal with the money after the final stuff is there, we can do it.
Right. Right. Okay. So do we want to just have Mr. Schrodinger's statement as Rule 11?
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I like that.
I think Mrs. Schwartz just copied it down.
We did.
Thank you. And then adding in either before or after that the ones that we set from the sample ground rules.
Right.
22,
Mhm.
and then a combination of 33 and 34.
Correct.
Right.
This last statement.
Okay.
Replace all that.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, target
Keep the
date
last
for
statement.
completion of negotiations will be discussed and set by the IBB team.
Yeah, and then I think you've gotta keep this though, a target date.
Oh, you
to
still want that?
complete the 20, well, we gotta write it down. Take this statement and get rid of that, is what I was
Oh,
thinking.
I see, okay.
To simplify it, no?
That's fine.
That's pretty simple. And it's,
You're taking out the first sentence? Am I understanding that?
That's what, well, that was my original thought. Take that first sentence and just say, a target date for completion of negotiations will be discussed and set by the IBB team. And then the target date to complete the 2017-2018 negotiations is. No?
I like it.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple. And if we can agree on what's happening here, hopefully we can take this as ground rules in the future and just say, roll over new information into it.
Okay, so, remind me what we did last time. Did we wait until the next meeting to sign them? Or did we just get it printed out and signed?
Yep, we had to wait till the next meeting.
Okay. All right, is there any further discussion on the agenda item, review and establish ground rules? Here, none, we'll move on to item 3, schedule the next meeting date and time.
What do you have for volleyball? What do you have for basketball?
My soccer's, are you talking about this week or last week?
Well, I don't think,
We have a game tomorrow, Friday and Saturday is our tournament, and then it just depends on the varsity, but
From here on out, we may have to make it 6 PM.
yeah.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
You're coaching in the spring, correct?
yeah,
I
with
mean, you'll
golf.
have some time
With
off.
golf, yeah.
But
March,
so 4 of
I
the
think,
5
yeah.
of us will be coaching the spring sport. And so I think, whatever
When
we
do you
do, it'll
start?
have to be 6 o'clock.
Okay,
Next
yeah,
week.
that's
And I
fine.
agree with
What is
that
your
because
next
there's a
meeting?
lot of times I have IEP meetings at 4 o'clock at night, 4 or 4:30, so.
Okay.
and that means I don't always have to hire a babysitter, 'cause sometimes my husband will get home. That'll be nice. Okay, so do we wanna go next week? Is that the thought, or do you wanna go a week beyond that?
Well, I think our plan right now is to go back and to brainstorm some topics and put together our survey so that we can get our members' perspective. And so when we come back, so I would say at the earliest, mid next week,
Okay,
at the earliest.
so early March sometime is what we're looking at.
Mhm.
Yeah, because that's 27th is Monday.
I'm
Yep.
thinking, yeah, maybe Thursday.
March 2nd?
Yeah, Thursday works for me.
Yeah.
Fine.
You okay with that?
I'm trying to rack my brain with all going on. I can make it.
That may be state swimming, but if I'm not here, I'm okay with that.
So maybe state swimming?
It may be state swimming. Well, I know, no, the 3rd and 4th of state swimming, so I should be here still the 2nd.
Okay.
I'm sorry, next week.
We're doing it at
Yeah.
6?
6.
Yeah, does that work for
Okay.
everybody?
Mhm.
All right,
March
put it on the calendar. Did you just find a conflict?
Nope, in the boardroom again.
Yeah, I did.
Uh-oh.
What is it? No, you don't have to tell us.
Is that not gonna work for you, Jay?
What about Monday, the 6th?
I'm fine Monday the 6th too.
Yeah.
Cancel.
I mean, if we gotta make Thursday work, I'll make it work.
We have our book study that night.
Oh, we do?
Yeah.
Okay.
We do.
How about Tuesday?
You
Tuesday
can't
do
works.
early?
No. Oh, you mean Tuesday?
Tuesday of next week.
Oh, next
28th.
week.
Too early?
It might be for us. By the time we get our survey in and give them time to get it back to us and have us go over it, it might be.
What about Wednesday?
Pretty
I know
quick.
it's a-
Wednesdays are tough for me.
Yeah,
I have to be
they're
places
almost
at
in-
7, yeah.
They're
gonna
almost
say-
impossible for us.
So, I mean, Tuesday, March 7th?
I'm okay with March 7th.
That would work better for me.
Everybody good with that?
Good for me.
All right. Okay. All right. So we'll move on to item 4, agenda topics for the next meeting.
Topics. Introduction of topics.
Yeah.
Okay. I was looking at this earlier. And do we want to prioritize them or not? We have 2 meetings to introduce topics, right?
Correct.
So that's probably about all we can do. And then the following meeting, if we decided we wanted to officially prioritize them, we could. I don't think we really did that last year.
We didn't, it was the understanding that we were going to cover all the topics anyway.
Right.
And, you know, in regards to any of the topics that dealt with money, obviously, we're gonna have to hold off on, because we don't know exactly, you know, we'll know how much things cost, you know, based upon figures, but we won't know how that'll impact the revenue that we're,
Okay. So do you want to just kind of do things like we did last year and kind of, did we just listen to them all on every agenda? Isn't that what we did?
yeah.
Okay. And then based on what information we had available, that's what we talked about that
Yeah,
evening.
and I think we also even skipped around a little bit when we only had a certain amount of time. We felt we could get something accomplished
Mhm.
with this agenda item versus the one ahead of it.
Okay.
I like that aspect of keeping them all on the agenda because it does say we can't add anything to the agenda.
Right.
Yeah, because you're right, there's some that, this is easy. We can take care of it and get it off the table and be done.
Right. Well, yeah, and then once we had a tentative agreement, I think we took it off the main body agenda. It was just listed on the bottom that we'd had a tentative agreement about that. So I think we can continue that. So what will be different is that hopefully we'll talk more about the interests behind the topics, and that we can more collectively brainstorm solutions. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out for us. Okay, so introduction of topics next week. Is there anything else that we need to put on there? Can you think of anything, Dr. Sullivan, that we're missing?
I already wrote it down. Approve the minutes and approve the ground rules.
Oh, yeah, beautiful, thank you.
I was just gonna send it out.
That's kind of why we have you as the facilitator there.
That's the nice thing about having a facilitator. Okay, well then, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
taking time to be here.
I got it. It's easier to get it from this side.
Oh, thank you.
How do you do this? I want to send it to you.
Absolutely.
Okay. And I'll send it to Sarah and we can figure out
And we'll get her.
good, bad, or ugly.
And we can all take a look at it.
Yep.
We get it, we quick, easy.
That is true,
Sign, be done.
definitely.
Okay.
Okay,
That one's
Great,
done.
you turned yours off
Done,
too.
yeah.
Thank you.
sure.
Save your own bags.
Okay.